Hey gang, it is October 25th, 2018, and I wanted to give you an update on the Brooklyn Pony and how things are going. So this will be part 24. If you saw the previous segment, I talked about how I adjusted the quarter panel to make the extension fit better, and that has worked out pretty well. But I want to show you some more steps that I'm doing along with that. I'm also working on fitting the front fender and trying to take care of some gaps and different things, and I want to show you some of that as well. And I want to show you a tool that I'm using, or I have used before. I probably haven't shown it, but I use a contour gauge to try to verify the shape that I'm looking for. And in this case, I'm dealing with the quarter panels not being as crisp as they should be, and I'm going to show you that tool as I use it to determine the shape, because I have the other car that I call the Stray Pony, which is the 65 Mustang that I bought late last year, earlier this year, and it has original sheet metal on it. Original quarter panels, tail panel, trunk lid, all that stuff has not been cut or removed, and it's a very solid car. So I'm going to show you how that gauge works, and I'm going to use it as a reference as I move along on the Brooklyn Pony. I have a few things that I've been dealing with as far as the car and making things fit. As usual, you run into problems really with any kind of aftermarket panel. Nobody's going to make the perfect panel that I can see or that I have seen, and so there are just certain things that have to be addressed one way or another, and I want to show you some of that as well. Now, as you can see, I do have the fenders bolted on, the doors are in place, and I've been fitting up different pieces. Now, the front valance, that is a Dynacorn labeled piece. I know that's upside down, but I did do a comparison of that to a regular generic one, and the lines are much crisper on this Dynacorn piece, so I'm using that on this assembly, obviously. When I did the previous fitment videos on these aprons, these are one-piece aprons. Instead of being the normal two pieces you would get, this is one piece, and again, these are Dynacorn pieces. They had the brackets internal here already mounted, and I pointed out in that previous video that they were offset. They were actually, if I can show you on this one, get out my handy dandy LED light, and maybe you can see there, that is set back on this passenger side about 3/4 of an inch. I know, and so I had to cut the spot welds loose on the driver's side and move it forward, and so that's working out. I still have some adjustments to do because the holes don't line up as they should, so I'll have to address that. I've also been working on the fitment of the door to the fender, and part of that has involved working on this gap right here. So I've added some material to the door, and I don't want to add it to the fender because when the door opens it recesses into that curve on the fender, so it's easier to do some addition to the door. As you can see, I have a paint stick wedged in the door and basically just a piece of tape holding it there because I do not have a bolt in the bottom, but this gives me the gap that I'm looking for as I work on it. There was a very small imperfection in the door right there, so I've addressed that. Again, I'm working on the the overall fitment of the pieces, and if you look back here on the quarter, you'll see, yes, there's body filler. And I mentioned in the previous video, you could pile on a ton of body filler. In this case, this really isn't that much body filler. It's just covering a wide area. And the reason for that is you've got some things like this right here where you've got basically a high spot, and a high spot, and a high spot. That's really kind of a high spot there. And so I'm trying to make all that go away. You can actually see the color change through the material, so you can see it's not that thick. Just like up here, it's just really a shadow of of what's in there. I do have the extension bolted on, and I've ran fillers straight across that as well. So again, you can see this is the shadow of the quarter panel, and then this is the extension. So the idea being, I'm going to transition all this to be as smooth as possible. So when you look down the side of this car, it's straight, and you know, it's just a normal thing that has to be done to make things look right. Same way up here. There you can see the shadow of the extension. That's actually quarter, and you know, there you can see shadows of the quarter panel underneath. And there are just various, you know, things you deal with in the stampings. So this is working out really well. And I want to point out that if you look down the quarter, that's a very sharp line. And that's not normally how you would have a quarter panel anyway. That's just where I'm at this point. And the reason for that is, if you look at this one over here, this one's very rounded. And when you look at the quarter at the front, even the door, you've got a fairly crisp line that comes back. And as it gets further back, it fades away and becomes very rounded. I'm going to show you something with the contour gauge and use it as a comparison tool between this quarter panel and the one on the original car. So basically, this is the contour gauge made by Empire, and it's just a series of little pieces of metal that you can form or follow the form of just about anything. So if I come up here to this quarter panel and I come in at an angle and I push down, it shows me the form of that quarter panel. So there you can see kind of how round it is. Now I'm going to compare that to the original car. Now this is the 65 Mustang that I refer to as Stray Pony. So let me show you a comparison. Again, these are the original quarters. Trunk lid, all this stuff is original to the car and not been cut. So if I take that same contour gauge, come in at basically the same angle, make the same impression. Now you can see, at least I hope you can see, how much difference there is between the two. So obviously I'm going to try to go and match this shape, the one on the right, to the Brooklyn Pony when I get to that point. But that's a simple tool, but it really shows you what shape you have or what you're dealing with. So now I'm back at the Brooklyn Pony, and using that contour gauge, you can kind of see, at least I hope you can see, how much different that quarter is than the original car. It's kind of hard to visualize unless you have it in your hand, but you get the idea. So again, I will use that tool and try to replicate that shape as much as I can on both quarter panels, and this peak will go away. This will not be that crisp. It is only there because that's how I'm shaping it to make it match currently the extension. So as you can see, there's a lot of little things that have to take place for everything to look right, and you know, when it comes down to the final process of paint, you don't want to find flaws at that point. You want to have everything done and taken care of before you ever get to that. I will point out that I have turned on the heat side of the mini split that I installed a few months ago, and it is really making it comfortable in here. The temperature outside has been about 50 degrees, and prior to turning that on it was about 60 in here, and now it is about 68, 69, so much better and much more comfortable. So that's a good thing, and I'm happy to have it in place. I think that's it for this video. I hope you got something out of it. I know there's not a lot of overall fantastic, useful information coming out at this point, but I just thought I'd give an update and show you where it's at. So take care of yourselves, and thanks for watching.